Hello my friends, in today's beginner-friendly tutorial, we're going to be chillaxing and building a garden together. Along the way, you'll learn how you can make duplicates of your drawings to create rows of veggies, like these carrots here. We'll also learn how we can organize our layers by rearranging their order so that our plants overlap the way we want. Lastly, I'll show you how to squish layers together like bugs, but please don't actually squish bugs because that's mean. The only thing you'll need for this project is this template I've made for you. You can grab it for free using the link below, or better yet, you can scan this QR code to download it directly to your iPad. All you have to do is find the camera on your iPad. From here, you're going to point it at the code and wait for the yellow link to appear before tapping on it. With the template in our browser, we can hold down on it and choose Save to Photos from the options. All right, so now that you've got your template ready, let's open up Procreate and jump right in. In Procreate, we're going to go to Photo here to load our template. We can just pick it out like this. And the most important thing we're going to do today is set up our layers. So we're going to go into our layers and tap on the plus sign. Make sure you see that layer 2. And then we're going to go to Gallery and just exit our artwork. This helps lock our layers and just makes the process a little bit more foolproof. So next we're going to go to our brushes and we're going to go to calligraphy and grab our monoline. Now the problem with the monoline is that it's a little bit too thick, even at 1%. So let me show you how we can change that. And we're actually going to create this monoline mini. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to swipe left on it and you should see the duplicate button. If you don't see that, just make sure you're in the calligraphy brush set. So we're going to duplicate our brush and we're going to see something probably that says Monoline 1 and you can tap on that. Now we're going to jump into properties here. This is the third option from the bottom. And we're looking at the numbers here and we're going to find the one that says 2%. This is the minimum size. So instead of 2%, I'm going to tap on it and set it to 0 in the calculator like that. It's very easy. And then we're going to go to About this brush, this one here, and we can see the original name, Monoline 1. And I'm going to tap there. Sometimes the name is actually up here. It depends on your iPad. And I'm going to change the 1 to a mini so that I remember what this brush is. Now, I'm going to make one last change, and you may have already made this adjustment if you've done other videos with me. So I'm going to go to stabilization, and these are the settings that I like. So maybe pause your video here if you need some more time with this. The first one goes to maximum, and the rest just kind of sit in the middle. They don't have to be exactly 50%, just anywhere in the middle. This is going to make your brush smoother and just make your artwork so much nicer right off the bat. So those are the settings that I like for my monoline here. Now for the size, this is kind of up to you. I'm going to start with 10% and see how that goes, but I can always change it if I like. And then for my color, I'm going to go here and just pick out a black color for my outlines. So pick whichever item that you want to start with. This is going to be probably the front row of our garden. So think about maybe like the sizing. We tend to want to put the shorter things in the front. Think of the way that maybe you take class pictures. The tall kids often go in the back. So that's kind of what we're going to think about here. That's actually really funny to think about your garden as a class photograph. So anyways, I'm going to draw, and again, always feel free to change your template as much as you want. If you want to put funny faces on all the veggies and the fruits, there's no reason not to. And that's kind of what the templates are. It is a lot of tracing for the beginner projects, but they're intended to be kind of like a place for your creativity. So if you think of something really weird or wacky to do, I hope you give it a go. So one thing that I'm really paying attention to is I want to make sure that there's no gaps in my lines because those gaps are going to make coloring really awful. So I'm just going to make sure that I don't have gaps. So a gap like that, I want to make sure that I'm fixing those up, making sure those don't exist in my drawing here. So down below, I have linked many helpful issues that you might run into that I just can't cover every time I make a tutorial. So one example would be if your brush stops drawing. There is a little quick short that you can watch along with a lot of other things that you might run into. So if you're experiencing any frustrations, check out those videos. I'm sure I have a video to address it. Okay, so here is my completed carrot. So if you need a little bit more time finishing your first vegetable or fruit, pause the video here, obviously, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we can color. So obviously you could just drop the color in, but as a matter of good habits, I always duplicate my layer before I color. This just gives me way more options. For example, shading or adding patterns to my carrot. Maybe my carrot has a few little spots because it's organic. So here's my carrot, and I'm going to take the layer 2, and I'm going to swipe left on it like this. And there you'll see the duplicate button. And this creates 2 copies. I'm going to use the bottom one. It's basically like we're creating we don't want to like use the original drawing of our carrot, the original outline, because once you throw your colors in, you can't go back. So this protects our outlines. That's a good way to think about it. Okay, great. So next I'm going to pick my colors, and then I'll show you how to color. So if you need some help with coloring, you can pay attention to this. So I've got my orange. It's a nice bright orange like this. And when I'm coloring, I always zoom in on the part that I'm working on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my orange and drop it in like that. And I got lucky, it stayed in my carrot. But if the color spills out, you're going to look for those little gaps. If there's any gaps, it's going to let the color escape. Now you can come back to this, you can keep coloring, but if your color keeps escaping and you can't figure it out, you can always go to this brush set, airbrushing, and grab the last brush, and we can always hand color parts. So for example, I could hand color my carrot like this. Sometimes that's just easier than trying to figure out where those little holes are. And you'll notice I can't color on top of my black lines. My black lines are protected because of that duplicating step that we did. So I'll just color the part that isn't working, and then I'll go back to dropping in the colors. So I just grab the little color and then drop it in like this. Great, so meet me back when you're ready to put this lovely vegetable or fruit into your garden. Okay, wonderful. So from here, we're going to squish our layers because we can't really move. Watch what happens if I move this. It separates, right? So we just did that for coloring. Now I'm going to take my 2 fingers and I'm going to pinch these layers back together like this. So you kind of want to do this quickly. So if I do it really slow, sometimes it doesn't like to do it. Did it there, but a little bit of a quicker pinch usually works. So you should be able to merge the layers back together, it's called. Okay, wonderful. So now that it's back on one layer, so much easier to move it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my arrow and I'm going to drag this guy into my plot, and I'm going to position him or her right here. And I think that's about the right size, but I can always use these blue circles to make my objects bigger or smaller. Now, here's a little pro tip. When you're moving things, sometimes they do this to you. It's very annoying. So if that's happening to you, don't touch the object that you're moving. I'm going to do this with my finger. See how far away my finger is, and I can still move this carrot. So you don't have to be touching the thing that you're moving. And honestly, it's a really good practice because if it's something really small, it makes it really hard to move. Okay, so hopefully you've got it in the right spot. And now I don't want to draw this carrot 6 times. I have better things to do with my day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a copy of my carrot. So I'm going to swipe left on this guy, and there again, we're going to use that duplicate button. So now we have 2 carrots. We just can't see them. They're on top of each other. So we're going to take our arrow. We're going to move this guy over. Look at that. And they're exactly the same size. So that's another reason you don't want to touch that box or anything inside of that box when you're moving things, because I kind of want my carrots to be the same size. So I'm going to just keep doing this until I have as many carrots as I want in the front row. Now, keep in mind, the things in the front row will be slightly larger than the things in the back row, because as things move away from us, they also get smaller. So we're just going to keep that in mind. Okay, I think I can fit one more carrot in here. And think about the overlap that's happening here. This carrot is allowed to overlap on the frame, because if you think of the perspective, that's actually what would be happening. So overlap is something that we're going to be talking about today, because it is a really important concept in Procreate, and the layers really help us with that. Okay, I think I've got my carrots sorted out, and just for the sake of organization, I'm going to squish all of these carrots together on one row. So I'm going to take my 2 fingers, and now I can squish all of them like that. Now, when you do that, just make sure that you're completely happy with your carrots, because if you change your mind, once you squish things, you can't move them around as easily. So I actually, as an artist, don't really squish my layers that often. I try and avoid it at all costs. But sometimes things get really disorganized in our layers. So this is a nice way to keep things sane. Okay, great. So let's draw our next object. So we're going to tap on the plus sign, and we're going to make a new layer. And as a beginner, I really recommend every time you make a new layer like this, exit your artwork. Because what this does is it makes it impossible to tap undo and accidentally get rid of that new layer that you made, because drawing on the wrong layer is kind of a lousy experience. Okay, what's going to go next? I'm going to draw some of these tomatoes here. So that's going to be my next one. And so I want to make sure I go back to my original Monoline Mini and make sure that my brush size is still 10%. Line thicknesses are actually quite important in our drawings. So if, for example, we drew our lemons with one size brush and then we drew the next thing with like a different size, that's going to look pretty sloppy. I don't know what it is about it. It shouldn't matter that much, but for some reason, our eyeballs really focus in on that. Or maybe our brains, I'm not sure. So you can always remove the stabilization off of your brush. You can put those settings back. Some people don't like it. I really like it for my outlines. I wouldn't use it if I was like hand coloring something. But when I'm drawing like illustrations, I really enjoy having the stabilization. Because technically we're not drawing on paper, we're drawing on like a glass surface. So it's pretty hard to get your brush strokes to be nice and, or I guess not nice, but like to not have it be wobbly. This was my big frustration when I first started drawing on my iPad. I was like, this is so weird. I don't know if I like it. And it was because of that glass surface. It's just very different. And you get used to it and you adapt. But initially, it was like a really weird experience for me. So I have a special screen protector. It's kind of has like a rough texture on it. It's like a matte. And that helps me get like a little bit more resistance when I draw. You can sometimes hear that little scratchy sound my brush makes, but it's certainly not the same as paper. The screen protector is actually called paper-like because it's supposed to be like paper, but I think it's overselling what it does. So we're going to finish this next fruit or veggie, and then obviously color it. And then there's one more thing I wanted to show you, which is how to deal with overlapping objects, because that's going to start to play a big part once we get more vegetables and more varieties of things in our garden. So if you need more time drawing your second plant, pause the video here, but otherwise you can join me for coloring. So for coloring, of course, we're always going to duplicate our layer and use the bottom copy. And then I'm going to start coloring. So I'm going to pick this red color here. Ooh, that's nice. And some veggies are very shiny. My carrot wasn't so shiny, but tomatoes are typically shiny. So I can always add a little highlight like that for the really juicy fruits and veggies. It's crazy to think that tomatoes are actually fruits, apparently. That always boggles my noodle. And they say knowledge is knowing tomatoes are fruits, and wisdom is knowing not to put them in a fruit salad. I always really enjoyed that. Okay, so hopefully you're done with your coloring, but if not, pause the video here. And then, of course, we're going to squish these back together, these two layer threes, so that our next plant is just on one layer. And now we're ready to move it in the plot. But something weird is going to happen here, and I'll show you how to fix it because this is a common issue. So I'm going to take my arrow, and again, not touching it, I'm going to move it. And watch what happens. When I try and put it behind the carrots, because it's going to be the next row, this thing happens. That's not what I want. But it's very easy to fix this in Procreate, and a lot of beginners get really frustrated with this. So you can reorganize your layers. So actually, I'm going to put my tomato kind of like where I want it. I want it kind of like right in the middle of these carrots. And watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold down on this layer, and I can change the order. Reordering your layers is really, really important. So I'm going to put it underneath the carrots right here and let it go. Now, this is usually one of the hardest things for beginners. I don't know why, but there's just something about the way the layers move that just takes a few tries, honestly. So what I'm going to get you to do is make sure your iPad is flat on your table, not on an angle, on a stand or anything like that, flat on your table. Try using your fingers if it's not working for you. It's much easier to move the layers like that. Something called a new group appears like this. All you're going to do is take your back arrow and just get rid of it. Groups are really important. We cover those in advanced lessons, but for now they're going to just create problems, and the easiest way to get rid of it is just your undo button. So hopefully that worked for you, and now you can rearrange your next row here. So I'm going to make maybe like 4 of these plants. Okay, so now you have a really good idea of how to make new layers and organize your layers. And I really like this project because I feel like it is actually like making a garden. You have to give it a lot of thought. Okay, so let's get you started on your next plant. So I've got my row of tomatoes here, and then I'm just going to squish all of those guys together. And I can even make a final adjustment now. Now they're all on the same layer. And if I need to like move it down or something like that, I can do that. Just see how it would look. Okay, great. So let's get you started on the next plant. So again, I'm going to start a new layer, layer 4, and then just exit my artwork. And then I'm going to let you take it from here. So meet me back when you're done building your garden, and then we'll go over how to color the background. Okay, great. So I'm done planting everything I want for my garden, and now I'll show you how to color in the background. And I just wanted to point out that there are some other little things. So obviously like a watering can, and this basket is for some of these picked vegetables like the potato or the lemon or the apple. So if you want to do a basket of apples, that's what that's for. And obviously this garden would look really cute with like a little rabbit or something running around. So you can always add your own things. Again, the template is just a starting point for your creativity. So I'm really excited to see what you will create from this. So let's color in the background, and I've made this super duper easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to layer 1, and actually we're going to change our background color before we do anything else. So let's go to the background color here, and we're going to just change it to the color of the grass. And so I'm going to pick out my color, and you can see it's kind of like a coloring book. This part is transparent. So when you're changing your color here, when you go to this layer called background color, you see how it matches that color that I picked out? When you change it, you should see it change everything. If you're not seeing that, you probably need to go back to the start of this tutorial and download the template again and make sure you're following all those instructions because they're really important. So if, for example, you took a screenshot instead of holding your finger down, you could be experiencing problems now. So just go back, and it would be really easy to reload it. You would just go to layer 1 and go add and then insert a photo, and you could just put it over without losing any of your work. You could just find it here and then put it in. Hopefully you're not having those problems and everything is good. So then again, we're on layer 1 here, and now you can just color everything else, and it's so easy. So let me show you where to find brown colors. So I'm going to go to the orange section here and pick out a nice earthy brown. So here are kind of like my more grayish browns, and I think that looks really nice for the dirt. So I'm going to grab this color here, and then I can just drop it in, and look how easy that is. I really like that. So for the plot around here, you know what? I'm going to go a little crazy. I'm going to make it white because I think it would stand out even more. So I'm imagining that somebody has painted the wood around. And this part, anytime you see like this sort of like 3D aspect, you can usually use a slightly darker color than your original, and it will give the sense that it's a 3D thing. Now I got lucky and this part colored in for me, but usually you have to zoom in to get these tight places here. It's very hard to just aim and get it in the right spot. It's almost like a video game. Okay, great. What else do I have to color here? So let's get that fence sorted. So I'm going to pick a different brown. I'm going to pick a more saturated brown. So the more saturated colors are here on the right side. Saturated just means more colorful. So this is a more gray brown. This is a more reddish colorful brown. So I'm going to... And obviously, if you wanted to take this to the next level, you could go in and draw like some patterns on the wood. And that would be really cool. So if your color is spilling out and you can't figure out why, you can't really hand color this one. So if you check out the links below, there are some helpful ideas to help you fix that, but it should work. I've tested it out pretty thoroughly. So there she is, and then I'm going to just color the back with like a sky blue. I always really struggle finding, oh, actually that's a really nice shade. Sometimes I struggle finding the perfect blue color. So I think that kind of looks nice. Okay, great. So I hope you enjoyed this project.